Welcome to another edition of Talking About the Movies, and in contrast to what we did last week with the best movies of the year, we're now taking a look at the worst movies that 2022 had to offer, or to put it as Gene Siskel put it back in the day, these are movies that took 2 hours of our lives that we're never going to get back. This is what this show is all about. We're taking a look at the worst movies of the past year, and I guess there's no better way to start it off with and talk about the honorable mentions, or the dishonorable mentions in this case, which there aren't as many this time around. There are not as many of them in particular for this one, especially compared to the last one where I had like 20 movies on my honorable mentions list for the best movie of the year. There's only about half that, but yeah, same criteria as before. I didn't get to see every bad movie this year, but these are the movies that I saw in 2022 that I wish I didn't see. So, with that said, let's get right on into it. So again, just going to run through these really quickly. For the dishonorable mentions, Disenchanted, appropriately named, just a sequel that came 15 years too late. It was a movie that really felt like they made it because they were contractually obligated to do so, and it's another one of those comedy sequels where they take way too long to make it, and it's just not going to have that same magic as before. Like, you really need something very special to actually make this worth it in the end, and it just wasn't worth it. The first Enchanted is a great movie. This one just felt like they were forced to make it because it's been in development for so long. They finally had a platform to do it with Disney Plus, and they said, you know what, screw it, we're going to make it anyway. And the end result is a movie that's definitely lackluster, to say the least. It's a movie that's just not as good as the first movie on any level, shape, or form. Just a huge wasted opportunity with this film. Firestarter, just a pointless remake. A pointless remake that was particularly made most likely because of Stephen King, and the fact that Stephen King has gotten a huge resurgence in film in the past couple of years with the It films and Pet Sematary, and this movie just didn't work. I mean, there are elements that I thought that could be interesting, like seeing Zac Efron playing playing a father figure to this kid in the movie, but the rest of the movie itself is just not very good. It's a film that just feels really pointless and so lifeless compared to the original film. It just didn't work. It's a film that felt like it needed to be remade, and they just had nothing really to work with, so they just went with it anyway, and it just didn't work. Elvis, probably going to be a controversial one here. I really did not like this movie, and I give Austin Butler and Tom Hanks their best efforts. They tried to keep this going as much as they could, but it was just too much for me. The dialogue for this was just too ridiculous, and as much as I love Baz Luhrmann, even he can't make a very substandard musical biopic work, and it shows on screen here. It's a film that really fell apart pretty quickly, at least in my opinion. I didn't really like it a whole lot. The Bubble, easily the worst movie Judd Apatow has directed, and that's saying a lot because Judd Apatow has made some great movies as a director, but this felt like the worst. This felt like a waste of a huge ensemble cast, a waste of a good opportunity to satirize the blockbuster as a whole, and it just wasn't funny. It just was not funny in any way, shape, or form. It's a film that felt like it was made because, hey, there was an opportunity, the pandemic, we could get these guys together and they can do this stuff at their own place, and it just wasn't there. It just didn't work out at all. Next up, Slumberland. Jason Momoa starring in this one, and again, a live-action movie that makes you glad that the animated film exists, because even though the animated film for this is not very good, I mean, it's at least trying to do something compared to the original stories, while this is just a mess on so many levels. It just does not make sense whatsoever. Jason Momoa feels very wasted in here. There are good ideas in here, just bad execution overall. It's a film that really, it makes the original animated film look like a Disney classic compared to this. 365 Days This Day, and also the next 365 Days. What do you need to say about those movies? The first movie was such a huge mess of a film. It makes 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight look like classics by comparison. And the fact that they actually made this into not two, but three movies in a row, it's just like, I just don't get what's wrong with people. What's wrong with the people who saw this movie on Netflix and actually made it a hit, that actually say, we're going to make two more of these, and it's just a horrible series. It's a horrible, horrible series. Marry Me, just a lackluster comedy with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, and it's a generic romantic comedy, and not a very good generic romantic comedy. Like, you know what's going to happen, you know how it's going to end, you know how what the twists and turns are going to be. There's nothing funny about it. There's nothing original about it. It's just a bland movie, and I'd like to see these two in a much better film than this. Jurassic World Dominion, easily the worst of the Jurassic World series. But with that said, though, I still kind of enjoyed it, but I gotta put it on here anyway, just for the fact that the dinosaurs are not the main threat in here, but locusts are. Like, you just took the entire purpose of the series and just pushed them aside for locusts. It's just, I mean, that's why it's mostly on this list. I don't hate these Jurassic World movies as much as everybody else does. I would gladly take these Jurassic World trilogy over the original Jurassic Park trilogy. The first Jurassic Park will always be there as a classic, but Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 are just such terrible movies. The Jurassic World movies at least have some good things in all three films that I really like about them, and I don't flat out hate every single one of them. This one is the one that comes the closest, but there's still a lot in here that I really did like about it. There's just so many elements there that just really was just like, you're pushing it too far. I mean, the dinosaurs being replaced by locusts as the bad guys, it's just like, come on, man. And last but not least, we have Uncharted, with Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland, a movie that's been in development for so many years. And this is the end result we get here, and it just doesn't work. Tom Holland has proven he can be a great leading action star with the Spider-Man movies. Mark Wahlberg has proven he can be great, but it just doesn't fit. I don't think Tom Holland really fit the role of why am I forgetting his name now? Nathan Drake. Like, I don't think he fit that role well. Plus, the movie was just trying way too hard to get every aspect from the video game into the movie. I've never seen a movie where they've come as close to being as faithful to the video game as they can be, and yet they still made a movie that's not really all that good. Not a horrible movie, but definitely enough to warrant a list on the honorable mentions list. So, those are the movies on my honorable mentions list of the worst films of the year. Now let's get to the main event, the top 10 worst movies of 2022. So number 10 on my list, we have Deep Water with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, starring in an erotic thriller from director Adrian Lyne, who's made a lot of great movies in the past. Flashdance, 9.5 Weeks, Fatal Attraction, Jacob's Ladder, Indecent Proposal, Unfaithful. This is his first movie he's done in 20 years, and it's like he's really struggling to actually find a way to keep this going without feeling like he's repeating himself, because that's exactly what this feels like. It's a movie that feels like he's just repeating himself, and he's not really doing it with an interesting story or interesting characters whatsoever. Like, the way Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas talk to each other before they actually do the business, it's like you're watching ASMR porn, kind of. Like, everybody's talking in this deep monotone voice and just saying the same thing. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. You like to fuck like crazy. That's what's wrong with you. And you expect a whole lot better from these actors, and more importantly, the people involved in here. Adrian Lyne, like I said, has a great filmography to his name. Sam Levinson, the creator of Euphoria, also wrote this. You just expect a whole lot more, but it's just not there. It's a film that really, really feels like they're forcing it, and it's just not enjoyable whatsoever. It's a lackluster film. I really hated it. Deep Water's number 10 on my list. Number 9 is Amsterdam, and Amsterdam is just a movie that it's part of that new age movie making where everybody thinks that if you just go crazy, you put a big cast together, you don't have to really tell a good story whatsoever, people will come and see it. And just Amsterdam is just not that case. It's a movie that's so lifeless, so boring. David O. Russell has made some great movies in the past, and it just feels like he's just lost his edge. Like, the last couple of movies he's made have not been great movies. Joy was not a good movie. American Hustle was an okay movie, but nothing really spectacular. The last great film he made was Silver Linings Playbook, and that's still one of my favorite movies of all time. But Amsterdam, I just felt like he was just throwing everything to the wall, getting as many people as he can to do this movie, and didn't even give him a real story to work off. It's just like, make shit up. It's just like, you got all these names in here. It's a movie that's over 2.5 hours long, and it's just like, no, actually, no, I take that back. It's over 2 hours long, but still, at over 2 hours long, it gets really boring really fast. You do not care about any of these characters whatsoever, and it's because there's no real script for them to work with. It's not good. It's not good direction by David O. Russell. I mean, everybody's trying, I guess, but at the same time, what are they really trying for? There's not a good script to work with here. They're just throwing all these names in here for no reason whatsoever. And there's no real reason to have them in here. And it's just such a flabbergast of a movie. It's just a mess on so many levels. And I'm glad people overlooked it, but I feel like I don't know why they didn't do the same thing for Babylon, which has gotten slightly better reviews, but it's still not a very good movie. I mean, it's still not a good film whatsoever, because it has that same thing of, we really don't know what we're doing, so here's just all this wild and crazy shit. That's our movie. And it's just like, you can't sell it like that. So, but that's not on this list, but Amsterdam is. Amsterdam is the worst movie David O. Russell has done as a filmmaker so far. And you know, he's made some great stuff before, but for this to be his worst one yet, that says a lot about his filmography. Number 8, Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, a.k.a. why the fuck are we still making these movies when nobody's really going to see them? Because, like I said before, in the middle of the year, nobody cares about these Fantastic Beasts movies. I do not care about Newt Scamander. I don't care about any of these characters in here. You have not done a very good job of establishing this universe to make it separate from the Harry Potter universe, and you keep bringing David Yates back to direct these movies that nobody wants to see. You're not doing a good job of expanding the story. You're not doing a good job of expanding these characters. Why should I give a crap about this? You know, you're not even acknowledging the fact that this takes place before the events of Harry Potter anymore. It's just like, they're running on fumes here. And I know Harry Potter is a big name, but at the same time, you've got to look at this and say, you know, maybe we ought to give these people something different. Maybe we shouldn't give them the same damn thing over and over again. And they still kept making these movies, and hopefully this is the case, that it's time to stop making these movies. It's time to get people back into what made the Harry Potter movies so special. If you're gonna, it's just, give us something different, and stop getting David Yates to do everything after the original Harry Potter series, because, man, his career took a downturn quickly as a director for these series. And also, stop getting J.K. Rowling to write these movies, because it's clear that she's not a good film writer. She may be a good book author, but she just can't write a good script. Number 7 on this list, Lightyear, a movie that I really thought about putting it higher on the list because of how much it disappointed me that they lied to everybody on what they were trying to sell. Like, they sold this as, this is Andy's favorite movie. This is the movie in 1995 that Andy saw that made him want to Buzz Lightyear so much. And if you see this movie, there is no way in hell that this was the movie that Andy saw in 1995 that made him want to Buzz Lightyear. What Andy saw that made him want to Buzz Lightyear was the Buzz Lightyear Star Command TV series from the 2000s. But Disney Plus, for some stupid reason, won't put it on there. So they said, here you go, folks. Here's the Buzz Lightyear spinoff you've been looking for. Here it is right here. But we're not going to put it on Disney Plus first, because we don't think that this movie is good enough to be... We think this movie is so good enough that it needs to be seen in the theater. Yeah, forget Soul, forget Luca, forget Turning Red. This is the movie we're pushing out on the big screen. And, I mean, just... what a mess of a movie after so much potential that this movie had. The trailers for this looked amazing. The animation looks amazing. Chris Evans, I think, works very well as Buzz Lightyear. There are some good performances in this movie, but just, it's so bleak looking, the planets that they go to, and it really goes against everything that we thought Buzz Lightyear was. And the reveal of who Zurg really is, and it turns out to be a more older version of Buzz Lightyear, that was the moment that I checked out. That was the moment where I said, there is no way that this movie can redeem itself after something so stupid like that. I mean, it's just... it amazes me how, after all these months later, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell went wrong with Lightyear. And I could go off on it all day. I really wanted to put this more closer to the top of the list, but I wanted to be fair, because there were, honestly, a lot worse movies than this, but... man, this was pretty close. This is the movie that I was the most angry about this year, with the way they just lied to everybody, the way they just disappointed people, disappointed animation lovers, disappointed movie lovers. The fact that Disney put more effort into promoting this piece of garbage than Strange World, which was a far superior movie. It's just, and Turning Red as well. Like, it's just asinine. Plain and simple. It's a terrible, terrible movie. Number 6, The 355, Simon Kinberg once again proving that he should never ever take the director's chair on anything again, because holy mother of God, this is a movie that's an awful, awful mess. You have all these great female actresses, Lupita Nyong'o, Diane Kruger, Penelope Cruz, Jessica Chastain, Fan Bingbing, which her story is so. Go look at the story for this actress, Fan Bingbing, which I've seen her in The Meg. I thought she was good in The Meg, but her story of how she's been handled in Hollywood over the last couple of years is just so. It's disturbing, man, and this movie does not do her any favors, and it's just such a waste. You have all these actresses here, really good actresses who could really carry a movie like this, and it's just there's just nothing there. It's a film that has nothing of value to it. It's a boring movie. The action sequences are not that good. There's no tension. There's no mystery aspects that are strong in this. It's just a sloppy movie on so many levels, and all these women deserve a whole lot better than this piece of garbage that they have here. Number 5, Morbius, a movie that just every time I hear someone try to convince me it's Morbin time or we need to give this classic a chance, I just have to say, just shut up, please. Just shut up, because this is not a good movie, and it's not a good movie. It's a horrible movie. Jared Leto has really taken this huge downturn as an actor. I used to really like Jared Leto. I thought he was great in stuff like Dallas Buyers Club, and I've seen him in so many other movies, but this movie was just such a I want to say disgusting, but not. It's not even disgusting. It's just not an enjoyable movie. It's an unpleasant film. There's nothing exciting going on in here whatsoever. It's boring. The visuals are lousy. The story is really terrible, and I just don't understand why people thought that this movie was going to be so good, and people were so into it. But and it also ruins the Marvel Spider-Man universe that they had built in No Way Home. Like, they took everything that the MCU was building with these characters and just ruined it on its own. And it's just such a mess. It's a film that's just such a disastrous mess. I don't get why people were trying to hype this movie up as something special. It wasn't. Even it's one of the. They want to say it's a so bad it's good type of movie, but no, it's so bad it's so bad. Number 4, Home Team. Kevin James starring as Sean Payton. Clearly those two look alike, so that's why they had to do it. And, I mean, Kevin James has proven he can be a decent actor, but when he sticks with Happy Madison and does comedies like this, it just doesn't work. And this is one of those ones that's just like, it's such a mess of a film. Like, it's got all that Madison regulars. Rob Schneider's in here, Jackie Sandler, Adam Sandler's wife, Gary Valentine, Taylor Lautner, I guess, is part of this group now, and he's gotten. It's amazing how everybody else in the Twilight series has gotten better, and yet he's gotten worse and worse as his career has gone along. It's just not a good movie. It's a film that just feels like it's all over the place. It's not. It's a generic sports movie. There's nothing exciting about this story whatsoever. The characters are not exciting in this movie. It's a mess. It's a mess of a film, and it's just one of the reasons why Happy Madison movies most of the time do not work, and this is an example of when it doesn't work, and it really fails on so many levels. Number 3, Paws of Fury: The Legend of Hank, which is basically an animated remake of Blazing Saddles, even with Mel Brooks as one of the writers and one of the stars in it. And I'm just thinking, why? Like, why are we doing this? I mean, why do we have to tarnish Blazing Saddles by making an animated version for kids that's safe and marketable? I mean, what the hell are we thinking? And it just doesn't work. It's a movie that tries. There are some elements where the animation can be really good, but the jokes in this movie are just horribly done. They're just not good whatsoever. There's a lot of really bad jokes, really bad setups, not a very good villain. Everybody's trying their best here, but it just doesn't work. It's a movie that really feels like it was shelved for a number of years. Paramount picked it up, put it out in the summertime, hoping to make some money off of it, and it did not. It actually underperformed big time, and you can definitely see why. The movie was not very good. Number 2 on the list is Disney's Pinocchio, the Robert Zemeckis movie, which... wow, you took a timeless classic and you tried to modernize it and you failed miserably at it. I mean, using lines like influencers, dropping celebrity names like Chris Pine, beer's no longer a problem on Pleasure Island, it's now root beer. It's just like, come on, man, like, this is so lazy. And this has been a bad year for Tom Hanks, pretty much, because Elvis was in my honorable mentions, and he's in this movie, which he's not the worst thing about the movie. The movie just fails on so many levels, and like trying to modernize the story while trying to remain timeless is just a hard thing to do. I guess there's some things about it that I thought were okay. I thought Joseph Gordon-Levitt was all right as Jiminy Cricket. I thought Cynthia Erivo playing the Blue Fairy was very good. She has a good rendition of When You Wish Upon a Star, but everything else about this movie just feels wasted. It just feels like there's nothing there. It just feels lifeless. It feels like they were obligated to do this, and it just broke me. It broke me on Disney's live-action movies, which, like I said, I have not been against these live-action remakes. There's some that I've actually kind of enjoyed, but they're not going to be anywhere near as good as the original films, and this is definitely one where the original film's longevity is safe for now. I mean, if anything, the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio is cutting it close as one of the best Pinocchio adaptations ever. But yeah, this was just an insult to the original Disney classic, and Robert Zemeckis, I mean, talk about a downward spiral in his career, man. Like, this is the guy that did Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future, and then this is how you ended up. This is how you wrap it. This is how you're going to be seen now. Just a mess, man. Just a mess of a film. I hate this movie so much. Disney's Pinocchio. And so we come to this, the #1 worst movie of 2022, and it is a movie that I saw very early in the year. You probably already know what it is. It is the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, and man, did these Ice Age movies go downhill quickly. The first 3 movies were enjoyable films, but after that, it was all downhill from there, and this is the worst one. And like, whoever got on me for saying that Home Sweet Home Alone, for me coming out and saying some good things about Home Sweet Home Alone, I demand an apology, because this is what happens when Disney takes a former Fox property and just destroys it. I mean, this is just garbage. This is about as lazy of a cash grab as you can get, but the shit this movie pulls to go even more lazier levels than usual is baffling. You've got this trailer from the animation that you can just tell from the animation that the animation looks really, really choppy. They weren't even trying to have a fluid animation style or even an animation style to begin with. And, I mean, the Wimpy Kid movies that they put on Disney Plus have had better animation than this movie does. This doesn't even look like a movie. This looks like a movie that was made for a pilot for an Ice Age TV series or a direct-to-video movie. I'm disappointed on how lazy the animation is. The fact that they don't get anybody back from the first movie except for Simon Pegg. Raven Model's not there. No Dennis Leary. No John Leguizamo. No Queen Latifah. No Sean William Scott. No Josh Peck. If you can't even get Josh Peck to come back for this has fiasco already written over it. And, like, take, for example, Hotel Transylvania Transformania with Brian Hull replacing Adam Sandler. Like, he does a good impression of Adam Sandler that doesn't really make a difference whether or not it's Sandler there or not. And it made for an actually kind of decent film. If you haven't seen that one, definitely check that one out. But they're just trying way too hard to act like the actress they're replacing in this movie. And this is intended to be an Ice Age spinoff, but they're all in here. Like, everybody is in here. They just decided recently that, nope, this is actually the 6th film of the series, and we're going to make a 7th one. So I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know why you would, but it's like, you can't even decide if this is a sequel or spin-off until you've well finished the film. Like, how incompetent do you have to be? And the most amazing thing about this whole thing is the fact that despite everybody from the original Ice Age movies in this, is in this, Scrat is nowhere to be found. And you think this is the part, you think this is intended to be a spin-off or kind of a stand-off film, but when the other characters are in there, so why isn't Scrat in here? Well, Scrat is no longer owned by Fox, Blue Sky, or Disney. Ivy Supersonic, won a 20-plus year trademark dispute over the character with Fox until Disney asked her to settle it, and then they came to an agreement in 2020, and that means they gave her complete ownership. This woman has complete ownership. She fought Disney and Fox and won, and it's just amazing how she was able to pull this off, and kudos for her for forcing Disney to settle on this. But at the same time, think about what she's done. She not only took the face of the Ice Age franchise away, but the mascot of the former Blue Sky Studios. This is kind of like if somebody sued Disney or Warner Brothers over Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny and had won. Not on that grand scale, but it just shows you the magnitude of how important this is. And it also shows you how this movie really falls apart without Scrat there. The Scrat moments usually are the strongest parts of any Ice Age movie, even the worst ones. And when you take him out of the picture, you really do see that these movies are that take a huge chunk of the comedy out of there without him there, and the enjoyment is gone too. And it's a shame because we never get to see Scrat interact with these characters whatsoever within the story, and why don't they ever do that? And now we're never going to get to see it. But there was some good news this year. We did get a Scrat-based series in 2022 with Ice Age Scrat Tales on Disney Plus, which I think was made before the lawsuit was settled. And it's a whole lot better. It's probably the best thing this series has done since the original Ice Age trilogy ended. I mean, it's a funny series. It works with everything that makes the Scrat character what it is. It's just a great film. Like a great series, I should say. If you haven't seen it on Disney Plus, definitely go check it out. It's easily the best thing they've done with Ice Age since probably the first 3 films. But I mean, you could have made a great spin-off film with a Buck character, but nope, Disney took the cheap-ass way out and clearly made this to just keep the licensing for Ice Age around. And the end result is a movie that's just a failure on so many levels. This is one of those movies that was going to be hard to top as one of the year's worst films, and it still held up. It's a badly made film. It's not funny, badly acted, poorly animated, terribly written, an unbelievable mess of a film, one of the worst things to come out of Disney in a long time, and that is saying a lot. Avoid Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild like the plague. Please do yourself that favor. And so there it is, the worst movies of 2022. Thank you for watching, and if you have your own worst movies list, put them in the comments below. I kind of would like to know your thoughts on what were the year's worst films. And just like last week, we'll wrap it up with a recap of all the movies on my worst of the year list, both the regular list and the honorable mentions. And next week, we'll get back to some movies. I'll try to catch up with some 2022 films, and then we'll see what 2023 has to offer us. So, again, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, take care.